Yo, what's up, y'all? It's Cohen back here again tonight with another episode of After the Buzzer. If you're noticing that my background looks super different, it's because I'm back home now right now for Thanksgiving break from college. So the background's going to be different for about the next week or so. I apologize if anything's weird with like the lighting or the camera framing or whatever. I'm working on it. I'll try and perfect it over the course of this week before I then inevitably go back to my usual setup. So for right now, this is what we're dealing with. But as usual, I'm not going to leave y'all hanging on these games. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and give me your takeaways from tonight's game in the comment section below. The game that I do want to start talking about is the Lakers versus Celtics game. And this was a very weird game because I was driving during part of this game, so I missed some of it. I did catch back up on stuff, but in the Lakers had like their best first quarter of like the entire season. They had 38 points. They were just beating the Celtics in all facets of the game. LeBron James returned from injury in this one, and everything looked like it was going great. And then the second quarter, the Celtics fight back, and the Lakers take a 1-point lead into halftime. It looked like it was going to be a great battle. It was going to be close. And then the Lakers do what the Lakers have done all season, and they completely collapsed in the third quarter. The Lakers right now, I have this stat pulled up over here from StatMuse. Shout out to them on my phone. The Lakers are a minus 92 point differential in third quarters this season, which is the second worst in the league behind the Pistons that have a minus 93. So they're the second worst team in the league in third quarters. I don't know what happens at halftime, whether they like go on a team dinner or they all just take a nap and wake up groggy or something. I don't know, but whatever it is coming out of halftime, they're not ready to play and they're getting blown out. They were just giving up open shots. And this Lakers team has been super disappointing so far, not just because LeBron's been hurt. But this Lakers team was supposed to be built to, even when LeBron goes out, be able to kind of sustain success. Maybe not the success level that they have with LeBron James. Obviously, that's impossible to replicate when you have a player as good as him on your team. But they were supposed to stay afloat. And in this game where they had LeBron James and they had an 8-point lead at the end of the first quarter, and they were even winning at half, they just fell asleep completely. They got outscored by 12 in the third quarter and 11 in the fourth and lost by 22 points. They gave up 130 points to a Boston Celtics team with no Jaylen Brown and no Robert Williams. They were getting out-rebounded by Al Horford and Grant Williams all game. They just don't seem to show any effort, and they can't stop anyone defensively. In this entire second half, in like the third, fourth quarter, they were giving up layups, dunks, wide open threes. The Celtics got basically whatever shot they wanted. Jason Tatum has really struggled on the season, and so I guess they took that to heart and decided to just leave him open all game, letting him get 37 points on about 50% shooting. Dennis Schroeder with 21, 6 and 6 in his revenge game. Marcus Smart 22, 8 and 6, 15 from Josh Richardson, 18 from Al Horford. They couldn't do anything. They just can't get stops, and it's a big change from the Lakers teams that we've seen over the past couple seasons, especially in that championship season. What they had was a phenomenal defense and two really good offensive players in LeBron James and Anthony Davis. When their offense wasn't clicking, like oftentimes it just doesn't for teams at times, they were able to lock up on the defensive end. But now they got rid of most of their good defensive players. They got rid of KCP. Kyle Kuzma was an underrated defender. Alex Caruso, who they could have had back for a discount if you didn't see that story. Caruso, after getting his offer from the Bulls, asked the Lakers if they would match or even go a little bit under it so he could stay in LA, and they said no, and they let him walk. So they let him go. He had a phenomenal defensive sequence against the Nuggets today where he like poked the ball away from Will Barton twice, blocked a half court, or not half court, but like a last second shot clock heave. He was doing everything. He's a phenomenal guard defender, and they're really missing that right now. They've lost out on all of these good defenders, and now they've got shooters, but they don't even optimize those shooters, and the players just don't seem to fit. This Lakers team just is not great right now. There's plenty of time for them to get better. They can make trades. However, it is difficult when you have so much money wrapped up in LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook to make any monumental trades without trading one of those three. You're not going to trade LeBron. You're not going to trade Anthony Davis. And they've committed now to Russell Westbrook because nobody's probably going to trade for that contract at this moment. So it's tough. They're kind of stuck, and they've got to figure this thing out, but the personnel doesn't match. It doesn't feel like it's built to be a team. It doesn't share the same Lakers identity that the championship team had. That team never blew games. I believe they were like 50 plus and 0 when leading at the start of the fourth quarter or something like that in that championship season. They never blew leads. When they were winning in the fourth quarter, they were going to win the game. And this Lakers team is the complete opposite. They'll start going up by the first, second quarter. I as a Thunder fan know this personally because they went up on the Thunder by 26 points and blew the game. I know that was without LeBron James, but even without LeBron James, that's not a lead you can blow to a team like the Thunder that's supposed to be tanking. The Lakers just feel like they're kind of sleepwalking out there, and they can't do that. It's not like they're right now at the top of the Western Conference or even in the playoff race and like, whatever, these regular season matchups don't matter. Right now, they're on the verge of not making the playoffs. They're on the verge of that play-in tournament. They're 8-9 right now. There's no way they want to end up there. The Lakers have to figure something out. And I know it's very early in the season. They're still missing Kendrick Nunn and Trevor Ariza, although I don't know how much they're going to necessarily benefit. Trevor Ariza is really old, and Kendrick Nunn doesn't exactly solve all their problems. He's not exactly the lockdown guard defender that they need. They're trying to replace that lockdown guard defense with Avery Bradley. He's just not that kind of player anymore. He's not that level of defender that they need. Kent Bazemore's all right, but once again, he's not that level of player that they need. They need to get some kind of like good 3-and-D wing, and I just don't know if they have the assets to make a trade for that right now. So they're stuck. And this Lakers team, they continue to kind of disappoint, and we'll see what happens. There is plenty of time, like I said. Maybe it's just a chemistry issue. Maybe they'll figure things out. A lot of people are straight up blaming Frank Vogel. I don't think this is all Frank Vogel's fault. They have a lot of new guys. It is hard to get a system implemented and have all of these new guys. I think it's like 11 plus new guys on this roster. The only guys left over from last season are Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and Talen Horton-Tucker. Those are the only 3 guys. So it takes time. I'm sure this team's not going to be bad. They're not going to be this bad all season. But for right now, they don't feel like anything special, which is weird to say for a team with 2 former MVPs, Anthony Davis, a former Defensive Player of the Year like caliber guy. It doesn't feel right. They feel like they should be so much better. And through a mixture of just awful defense, sleepwalking through third quarters, and just personnel not matching, this team's just not performing. This is not a game they should lose. Oh, and especially, even if they lose this game, this isn't a game they should lose by 22 points. Once again, no Jaylen Brown for the Celtics, who have been having plenty of their own struggles, and they just made it look easy against the Lakers in the second half. The Lakers have a lot of things to figure it out. We'll see if they do it. Next, I want to talk about the Kings. Shout out to the Raptors, first of all. Beating the Kings by 19 points, and it wasn't that close. They were up by 20 plus for a lot of this game. Pascal Siakam had 32 and 8 in a phenomenal game. 23 from Gary Trent Jr., who's really been killing it recently. 13 from Fred VanVleet, who didn't have a great game, but he's been killing it recently. Only 2 from Scotty Barnes, and they still kind of blew them out. 10 and 12 from Chris Boucher. All around, a lot of guys contributed. Like I said, Siakam was definitely the star of this game. But I want to talk about the Kings specifically. I've made the decision that until they fire Luke Walton, their head coach, they're unserious. This Kings team is okay with mediocrity until they fire Luke Walton. Because there's no way anyone in that Kings front office is watching these Kings games, watching the way that they play and watching the way that they use their personnel, that Luke Walton utilizes the talent on this roster. There's no way they watch this and go, yeah, that's fine. There's no way. He should have been fired like 2 years ago. You can look back on this channel. I have videos from like probably over a year ago talking about how Luke Walton has to go. So many just random blowouts that don't make any sense. So many games where they look underprepared. Games where they just fall apart at the end. Last season, I can think of that Kings Hornets game that comes to mind specifically. I think that's the game that spurred me making my first like Luke Walton has to go type video. But I've been campaigning for Luke Walton to be fired for a long time. I don't want a guy to lose his job or anything, but this Kings roster is so much more talented than their record lets on, and it's just not being utilized well. It doesn't make sense the way that they play. Luke Walton, I don't know how he's still their head coach. He should have been fired a year and a half ago. And now there's reports, there was a couple days ago that, Luke Walton's job is kind of on the line. I don't even know if I believe it. Because he should have been gone like 2 years ago. So why would I believe it now? Why would I believe that now they're finally like, now we're going to fire him? I don't know what kind of dirt he has on the Kings general manager, whatever he has on their front office, but he's got something because there's no way he should be coaching this team. So until they fire him, I just don't know if I can take the Kings super seriously. Because with Luke Walton as their coach, this team is not going anywhere. If they fire him and then maybe put something together, maybe make a play-in tournament or something, because right now it's wide open. The Timberwolves are underperforming, the Thunder are overperforming at the moment. The play-in tournament is wide open. The Kings could make it. So many teams are underperforming, but instead they're content with Luke Walton being mediocre and being 6-10 on the season. They're worse than the Thunder right now. And as a Thunder fan, I can tell you, we're not that good. We're not a 6-9 level team. The Kings have too much talent to be 6-10 right now. They just do. And so until they fire Luke Walton, they're okay with being mediocre. And, I guess I'm just going to have to accept that. I like De'Aaron Fox. I like Tyrese Halliburton. I like this roster. They've got talent. They just refuse to make the changes in the head coaching spot necessary to make it all work. And so, whatever. Kings are just unserious. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the Mavericks Suns game. This was a really fun one. No Luka Doncic in this game, but the Mavericks did put up a pretty big fight. 18 from Jalen Brunson and 10 assists. 23 from Kristaps Porzingis, who has been really solid as of late. He's having a really good stretch, and if these are the games that he's able to put together on a regular basis, then he could, maybe this is the season where the Mavericks take that kind of jump if he is becoming a more consistent player again. But they kept it close, and really just the story of this one was Chris Paul in the fourth quarter. He assisted or scored on almost every single basket at the end of the game. Mid-ranges, he got multiple steals on guys that just weren't paying attention. Kristaps, I know I was just talking good about him, but he put his back to he was backing someone down and just looked away, and Chris Paul just runs up, taps it out of his hands, and runs down the court for a layup. Or not a layup, I think it was an assist to a Devin Booker 3, if I remember correctly. He just makes everything look so easy, and he was dominating in the fourth quarter. And his stat line won't even tell you how much he was dominating. He had 18 and 14. But in that fourth quarter, especially down the stretch, the Mavericks were kind of getting a little bit close. And then all of a sudden the Suns were up 10 because Chris Paul just scored 3 mid-range buckets, hit Devin Booker for a 3. He's got a steal, hit Devin Booker for a 3 again, or some kind of bucket. And then all of a sudden the Suns were up 10. He makes it look so easy. This Suns team is legit as hell. I think this is now 11 wins in a row. They're 12-3. And out of all of the teams that made the finals and then started off 12-3 or better to start their season, the last 7 or so have all made the finals again. So if that gives you an indication of how good this Suns team is, that should be it. Next, let's talk a little bit about the Hornets and the Pacers. I don't want to talk about the Hornets too much. I've talked about them a good bit. They're a solid team. 10-7 now, 14 from Miles Bridges, 25 from Gordon Hayward, 32, 11, and 8 from LaMelo Ball, who had a great game. But we need to talk about the Pacers because, shout out my guy Kenny, he talked about on Called Game the other day about how the Pacers just stink and they're just so mediocre, and he's completely right. This Pacers team has so much talent. And maybe I was wrong. I thought Rick Carlisle coming in, I thought that was a great hire. I thought it didn't make sense. The Mavericks let him go. And maybe I was just wrong because this Pacers team stinks. They're 6-11, and they've got Domantas Sabonis, Chris Duarte, Miles Turner, Malcolm Brogdon, Karis LeVert, T.J. McConnell, Torrey Craig, Jeremy Lamb, Justin Holiday. That's a lot of talent on that team. I think the main problem is they just don't have a go-to star, really. Sabonis played 22 minutes and had 8 points. They just really don't give him the ball that much. Miles Turner, 19 minutes, 4 points. Malcolm Brogdon's been having a good season with 23 minutes and 16 points. It's just, they can't make anything work. I don't know. The Pacers need to blow it up is really what they need to do. Maybe I'll make a video about that. If you want to hear me talk about the Pacers and how they need to blow it up, let me know in the comment section below. But the Pacers are a team that continuously, I'm like, oh, they could make the playoffs. And then no, they just stink. They're mediocre. They're around the play-in tournament. And I don't see them being any better than that unless they make moves. Next, let's talk about the Bulls-Nuggets game. This game, once again, the Nuggets without a star player, similar to the Suns Mavericks game. The Nuggets, no Nikola Jokic in this one, and they kept it close, mainly behind 28 from Aaron Gordon and 23 from Will Barton, as well as Campazzo had a great fourth quarter. He had 16 points on the game, and he had a couple big threes in the fourth. It was a good effort from a Nuggets team that was pretty short, man. Like I said, no Nikola Jokic. That's a huge loss for them. Of course, no Michael Porter Jr. or Jamal Murray, as has been the case over these last few games. On the Bulls side of things, DeMar DeRozan with 26, 6, and 4. But the story of the game was Zach LaVine. In this game, he really took over, especially in that fourth quarter. I think he went on his own 12-2 run against the Nuggets, with Zach LaVine scoring all 12 of those points, hitting tough threes at the end of the shot clock, hitting tough step back shots. He was just doing absolutely anything. He completely took over at the end of the game. He made it look super easy, and that's part of why this Bulls team is so scary, is that the way that DeMar and Zach LaVine are playing right now, either of them can kill you in crunch time. Either one of them can go get you a bucket no matter what, no matter who they're going up against, no matter what kind of bucket you need, whether it's like a turnaround mid-range jumper. Both of these guys can make it happen. Zach LaVine can hit a deep three for you. DeMar DeRozan has even been hitting threes at a decent rate so far this season. These guys can go get you buckets in that crunch time, and as a team that is trying to contend, they're trying to compete in the Eastern Conference, that's something that's super important. The Bulls continue to roll, and now they move to 11-5 on the season. And finally, I won't talk about this much, but I'm sure people want me to talk about the Thunder Bucks game. The Thunder down 20 in the third quarter, make this really close. Brought to within 2 in the fourth quarter, but never quite took that lead. 17 from Gilgeous-Alexander. He continues to struggle with his shot. He struggled the last 3 games. Once again, he shot 5 for 20 in this one, including, I think it was 2 for 10, 2 for 11 from 3. He's kind of just forcing shots right now. He's struggling to get into the paint, get to his spots. He's gone up against some really, really good defenders over the course of these last few games. Rockets game excluded. But against the Bucks, going up against Drew Holiday a lot of this game, against the Miami Heat, PJ Tucker, teams are really keying in on him offensively, especially his drives, and it's forcing him to settle for a lot of threes. His shot's going to get more consistent, and the problem right now is we don't have a lot of guys that are able to knock down those threes, so teams feel very comfortable kind of just collapsing in on the paint. He's going to make it happen. His mid-range jumper that typically falls just hasn't quite been falling. When it starts falling, it'll be a lot better. He's just kind of going through a rough stretch right now. I do want to give a shout to Josh Giddey, who had 14, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists. 6 of those rebounds were offensive rebounds, by the way. He just seems to have a huge knack for finding the ball. He always seems to find a way to get into the right spot to get a rebound, and that's huge when it's your point guard that's making that happen, or shooting guard, whichever position you want to go with. That's just big because he's able to so quickly reset the offense, make things happen, and it really just helps the offense flow a lot off those second chances. And for the Bucks, 21, 19, and 7 from Giannis, who destroyed us, 17 and 13 from Bobby Portis, and 16 and 8 from Chris Middleton in an all-around effort to destroy us. So, those are my thoughts on the games from today. Let me know your thoughts below. I appreciate y'all watching. I will see you all later.